So what I did was, I eased my ear a little closer to their conversation, pretending to inspect the area between third and home plate while angling my ear toward Coach Coe and his young batter. This was what I heard him say. Coach Coe placed a reassuring hand on the player's shoulder and looked directly into his eyes.
Son, I believe in you.
Coach Coe told him.
Whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. All you have to do is believe you can.
The young player listened without looking away.
Just believe you're going to hit the ball.
Coach Coe continued.
Because I believe in you.
After hearing those words, I glanced toward the batter and then toward the Vols ace standing confidently on the mound. I began thinking about the young man's previous trips to the plate. He had already struck out twice, and now he was facing the best pitcher on the Vols team with the game hanging in the balance. I believe he's going to strike out again, just like he did the last 2 times, I silently told myself. Coach Coe finished the conversation and returned to the third base coaching box. The batter tightened his grip on the bat and walked toward home plate. As he stepped into the batter's box, I noticed something different about him. The uncertainty I had seen earlier was gone. His shoulders were no longer slumped, and he did not appear intimidated by the pitcher standing 60 feet and 6 inches away. He dug his cleats into the dirt, raised the bat over his shoulder, and fixed his eyes on the mound. There was determination on his face. He appeared convinced that something different was going to happen during this plate appearance. The confidence Coach Coe had poured into him now seemed to be flowing through his entire body. The Vols pitcher came set, lifted his leg, and delivered the first pitch. The ball sailed too far inside. Before the batter could move completely out of the way, the pitch struck him hard on his left leg. The crowd gasped.
Oh no!
Several Poets fans cried. The batter stumbled away from the plate as his bat fell into the dirt. For a moment, everyone waited to see whether he had been injured. I immediately stepped forward and watched him carefully. "Are you all right?" I asked. The young man grimaced, but he quickly regained his balance. He nodded, gathered himself, and began moving toward first base.
"I'm good,"
the batter replied. The Poets fans erupted as he made his way down the baseline. Their teammates stood along the dugout fence, clapping and cheering for the young player who had reached base and kept their hopes alive. The Poets now had runners at first and second with nobody out. The potential tying run was on base, and the winning run was coming to the plate. Once again, I could feel the momentum shifting. Only moments earlier, the Vols and their fans had been celebrating what appeared to be a certain victory. Now, the Poets side of the stadium had come alive, and their cheers grew louder with every passing second. The batter had stepped into the box, believing he would finally hit the ball. Instead, the ball had hit him. Still, he had accomplished exactly what his team needed. He had found a way to reach first base. The 8th batter in the Poets lineup walked toward home plate with runners at first and second and nobody out. Like the 2 batters before him, he had struck out during both of his previous plate appearances. Before the young man stepped into the batter's box, Coach Coe called to him from the third base coaching box.
You can do it.
Coach Coe shouted.
Just believe, like the other 2 did. Just believe.
The batter paused and looked toward him. Coach Coe leaned closer and lowered his voice so that only the player and the curious umpire standing nearby could hear him.
Think about what you do when you're inside the batting cage.
Coach Coe told him.
Don't try to do too much. Just do what you've practiced.
The young batter nodded and turned back toward home plate. His face carried the same confidence I had seen in the previous hitter. He stepped into the box, appearing more determined to make contact than he had been all afternoon. As I watched him settle into his stance, I felt the same surge of energy moving through him, the poet's dugout, and even me. I sensed that something was about to happen. I simply did not know what it would be. The count reached 1 ball and 1 strike. The Vols ace stared toward his catcher, received the sign, and delivered the next pitch. The batter swung and made contact. It was not a hard line drive or a towering home run. Instead, the ball rolled slowly into the open space between the pitcher and the catcher. Both players rushed toward it. The pitcher reached the ball first, bent down, and picked it up with his bare hand. He turned toward first base and began his throwing motion, expecting to record an easy out. However, as he brought his arm forward, the baseball slipped from his hand and dropped onto the ground behind him. For a moment, it appeared as though an invisible hand had reached down and knocked the ball away just as he tried to release it. The pitcher spun around desperately, searching for the baseball. By the time he located it, the batter had reached first base safely. The lead runner stopped at third, and the runner behind him advanced to second. The bases were loaded. The Poets fans erupted. Their players jumped and shouted from the dugout, while Coach Coe clapped his hands and continued encouraging his team. The Vols still held an 8-6 lead. Their best pitcher remained on the mound, but the tying runs were now in scoring position. The potential winning run stood at first base, and there was still no outs. Then the 9th batter in the Poets' lineup began walking toward the plate. He had not touched the ball all afternoon. He had struck out during each of his previous 2 plate appearances, and now the game had placed its greatest burden on one of the team's least successful hitters. The young man entered the batter's box, wearing the same determined expression as the batters before him. He dug his cleats into the dirt, gripped the bat tightly, and stared toward the mound. The Vols pitcher looked equally determined. He knew that a strikeout could restore order and move his team one step closer to victory. He came set and threw his hardest fastball of the afternoon. The pitch exploded into the catcher's glove as the batter swung underneath it and missed. The Vols fans roared while the pitcher walked behind the mound, appearing more confident than before. The Poets' batter stepped away from the plate. Before returning to the box, he looked toward Coach Coe at third base. Just as he had done with the previous hitters, Coach Coe refused to allow the young man to surrender to doubt.
Do exactly what the others did.
Coach Coe yelled.
Just believe.
The batter nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped back into the box. The bases were loaded. The Poets trailed by 2 runs. Nobody was out, and the young man who had not touched the ball all day was being asked to believe that this time would be different. The young batter stepped back into the box as encouragement poured from the Poets' dugout and the stands. "You can do it," one fan shouted.
"I believe in you,"
another called.
You can hit this pitcher.
The young man took a deep breath, tightened his grip, and turned his attention toward the mound. He had struck out twice, and he had just swung through the pitcher's hardest fastball. But none of that seemed to matter anymore. He was ready. The pitcher came set and delivered. This time, the pitch traveled directly over the middle of the plate. The batter swung with all his strength. The sound of the bat meeting the ball echoed across the field as the baseball sailed high into the gap between center and right field. Both outfielders immediately broke toward it. The center fielder raced to his left, while the right fielder charged to his right. As the ball descended, they drew closer to each other. Both players raised their gloves, but neither one called for the ball. At the last possible moment, each outfielder noticed the other approaching. Afraid of colliding, they both stopped running. The baseball dropped untouched between them. It struck the grass and rolled past both players toward the outfield wall. The runner from third crossed home plate, cutting the lead to 1. The runner from second followed him, scoring the tying run. By then, the runner who had started at first was racing around third base while Coach Coe waved him home. The Vols finally retrieved the ball and threw it toward the infield, but it was too late. The third runner crossed home plate, scoring the winning run. The Poets had won the game 9-8. Their dugout emptied as players rushed onto the field. The fans shouted, clapped, and celebrated a comeback that had appeared impossible only moments earlier. Coach Coe ran directly toward the young batter standing on second base. When he reached him, he wrapped his arms around the player and held him proudly.
I told you, son.
Coach Coe exclaimed.
All you had to do was believe. Just believe.
As I stood near home plate watching the celebration, Coach Coe's words remained with me. Just believe. He had spoken life into 3 young players who had every reason to doubt themselves. By telling each one, "I believe in you," he changed the atmosphere surrounding them. Their earlier strikeouts no longer defined what they believed they could accomplish. Their failures had not been erased from the scorebook, but Coach Coe refused to use those failures as a prediction of their future. He treated every new plate appearance as another opportunity for them to succeed. That lesson reminded me of the words in Psalm 103, which tells us that God removes our transgressions as far as the east is from the west. I began to see those failed at-bats as a picture of grace. The players could not change what had already happened, but they did not have to carry their past failures into their next opportunity. That was what I witnessed on the baseball field. The 6th batter reached base because he believed enough to try something different. The 7th batter trusted his coach's words and stood his ground, even when the pitch struck him. The 8th batter put the ball in play and reached safely when the pitcher made an error. Finally, the 9th batter, who had not touched the ball all day, delivered the hit that won the game. Each player's success strengthened the confidence of the one who followed.
So don't allow your past to convince you that your future has already been decided. Step back into the batter's box. Face the next pitch. Trust God. Trust what He has placed inside you, and just believe.